everyone. Welcome to today's listening practice session, Part 11, Climate Change, a Global Crisis. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most pressing issues of our time, climate change. In simple terms, climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. While these changes can happen naturally, over the past century, human activities have been the primary driver of climate change, causing an acceleration of these natural processes. The topic of climate change has never been more relevant than it is today. Around the world, we are witnessing rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and environmental destruction. But beyond these observable effects, climate change poses a threat to our very way of life. It's more than just a scientific or environmental issue. It's a human issue, one that affects our health, our food security, and our economies. In this talk, I will outline the causes and consequences of climate change, as well as discuss the steps being taken at global and individual levels to address it. Part 1. Causes of climate change. Let's begin by understanding the causes of climate change. Climate change results from both natural and human-induced factors. 1. Natural causes. First, let's discuss the natural causes of climate change. These include volcanic eruptions, variations in solar radiation, and changes in Earth's orbit. For example, when large volcanoes erupt, they release significant amounts of sulfur dioxide and ash into the atmosphere, which can lead to short-term cooling of the planet. Similarly, changes in the sun's intensity and the Earth's position relative to the sun can affect climate over thousands of years. However, these natural factors only explain a small fraction of the changes we're experiencing today. Number 2. Human-induced causes. Now, let's focus on the human-induced causes, which are responsible for the dramatic increase in global temperatures over the past century. The most significant contributor is the burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas for energy. These activities release carbon dioxide, CO2, and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, trapping heat and causing the planet to warm. Deforestation also plays a major role, as trees absorb CO2, and cutting them down releases this gas back into the atmosphere. Industrial activities, agriculture, and urbanization further exacerbate the issue. Agriculture, especially livestock farming, produces large amounts of methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Meanwhile, urbanization and transportation contribute to higher CO2 emissions. The cumulative effect of these human activities is the primary reason we are facing a climate crisis today. Part 2. Consequences of climate change. So what are the consequences of climate change? The impacts are wide-ranging and severe, affecting both the environment and human societies. 1. Environmental impacts. One of the most obvious consequences of climate change is global warming, an increase in the Earth's average temperature. This warming is leading to the melting of polar ice caps and glaciers. As these ice masses melt, sea levels are rising, threatening coastal cities and island nations with flooding. Additionally, the oceans are becoming more acidic as they absorb excess CO2 from the atmosphere. This acidification harms marine life, particularly coral reefs and shellfish. Weather patterns are also changing. We're seeing more frequent and intense storms, floods, droughts, and heat waves. These extreme events are not only damaging to the environment, but also to human communities, as they destroy homes, infrastructure, and livelihoods. 2. Impact on biodiversity. Climate change is also having a devastating impact on biodiversity. Many species are struggling to adapt to the rapidly changing climate. As habitats are altered or destroyed, we are witnessing the extinction of many species at an alarming rate. For example, polar bears, which rely on sea ice to hunt, are losing their habitat due to the melting Arctic ice. Similarly, migratory patterns of birds and fish are being disrupted, affecting ecosystems around the world. 3. Impact on human life. Climate change is not just an environmental issue, it directly affects human health and well-being. Heat-related illnesses and deaths are on the rise, especially in vulnerable populations. Respiratory problems are worsening due to poor air quality, exacerbated by higher temperatures and increased pollution. Moreover, climate change is creating conditions for the spread of diseases like malaria and dengue fever, as warmer temperatures allow disease-carrying insects to thrive in new regions. Food security is another major concern. Changes in rainfall patterns and temperatures are affecting agricultural productivity, leading to crop failures and food shortages in some regions. Fisheries are also being impacted as warming waters and ocean acidification disrupt marine ecosystems. This, in turn, threatens the livelihoods of millions of people who depend on fishing and farming for their survival. Economically, the costs of climate change are enormous. Extreme weather events cause billions of dollars in damage to infrastructure, homes, and businesses every year. Entire communities are being displaced as rising sea levels and desertification make their homes uninhabitable. This mass displacement, often referred to as climate migration, is already contributing to social and political instability in various parts of the world. Part 3. Global Response to Climate Change. In response to the growing threat of climate change, the global community has taken several steps to address the issue. 1. International agreements. The most significant international effort to combat climate change is the Paris Agreement, adopted in 2015. This landmark accord brings together nearly every country in the world with the goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, ideally aiming for 1.5 degrees. Each country sets its own targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, known as Nationally Determined Contributions, NDCs. While the Paris Agreement represents a major step forward, it is up to individual countries to honor their commitments and take meaningful action. 2. Government policies. Many governments are implementing policies to reduce emissions and transition to cleaner energy sources. Carbon pricing is one such strategy, where countries impose a tax on carbon emissions or establish a cap-and-trade system. This creates financial incentives for businesses and individuals to reduce their carbon footprint. Investments in renewable energy, such as wind, solar, and hydropower, are also increasing. Governments are providing subsidies and incentives for the development of these technologies, which are essential to reducing reliance on fossil fuels. 3. Role of businesses. Businesses are also playing a key role in the fight against climate change. Many companies are setting ambitious targets to become carbon neutral or achieve net zero emissions. Innovations in green technology, such as electric vehicles, sustainable agriculture practices, and energy-efficient products, are helping to reduce emissions while supporting economic growth. Part 4. What can individuals do? While governments and businesses have a major role to play, individuals also have the power to make a difference in the fight against climate change. 1. Lifestyle changes. One of the simplest things we can do is reduce our energy consumption. This might involve using energy-efficient appliances, opting for public transportation, or even walking or biking when possible. Additionally, reducing our meat consumption can have a significant impact, as livestock farming is a major contributor to methane emissions. By adopting a more plant-based diet, we can reduce our personal carbon footprint. Reducing waste is another key action. This can be done by recycling, reusing products, and composting organic waste. Every small action adds up when it comes to reducing our overall environmental impact. Number 2. Advocacy and education. Finally, individuals can contribute by raising awareness and advocating for stronger climate policies. We can support environmental organizations, vote for leaders who prioritize climate action, and encourage our communities to engage in sustainable practices. By sharing information on social media or participating in local initiatives, we can amplify the message that urgent action is needed to address this crisis. Part 5. Challenges and Future Outlook. While significant progress is being made, there are still many challenges ahead in the fight against climate change. 1. Political and economic challenges. One of the biggest challenges is balancing economic growth with sustainability. Many industries are resistant to change, and governments often face political pressure to prioritize short-term economic gains over long-term environmental sustainability. However, this mindset is changing as the economic costs of inaction become clearer. 2. Technological innovations. On the brighter side, technological innovations offer hope. Advances in renewable energy storage, electric vehicles, and carbon capture technologies are helping to reduce emissions and slow the pace of climate change. Continued investment in these areas will be critical to meeting global climate goals. In conclusion, climate change is a global crisis that demands immediate and sustained action at every level. From governments and businesses to individuals, we all have a role to play in addressing this challenge. The science is clear, the impacts are real, and the time to act is now. Together, we can work towards a future where we protect our planet for future generations. Thank you.